Power's out. Cell towers are overloaded or down entirely. The internet is gone, and you have family in different locations with no reliable way to reach them. This isn't hypothetical. Hurricanes, ice storms, wildfires, earthquakes, in real emergencies, the infrastructure that modern communication runs on fails, predictably, repeatedly. Ham radio is one of the few options that doesn't depend on any of that infrastructure. Here's what that actually means in practice and what you need to get set up. Let me be clear about something up front. A lot of preppers are into ham radio, but ham radio is not just a prepper tool. It's a full hobby with a massive community of operators who use it every day for contacts, travel, events, competition, and just plain pure enjoyment. That's the context most of this channel lives in. But emergency communication is one of the most legitimate and important applications of amateur radio. And it's the reason a lot of people first get interested in getting their license. That's what originally got me involved with radio back in 2010. If that's you too, then you're in the right place. Here's what's real. When major disasters hit, ham radio operations are often the only functioning communication infrastructure in those affected areas. They're integrated into local emergency management plans. They work alongside hospitals, fire departments, and disaster response organizations. This is not theoretical. This is documented history going back for decades. I've personally experienced ham radio operators provide support during wildfires, during hurricanes and blizzards and ice storms. They were the best and in some cases the only source of information for me and my family during those disasters. When you hold a ham radio license, you have both the technical knowledge and the legal authority to be part of that infrastructure. And you don't need a massive antenna farm to participate. Let me start with the foundation, because everything else builds on that. You need a license to transmit on the amateur frequencies. That's the law. Some people might make the point that you can transmit without a license during a personal emergency. And while they're technically right, the truth is you don't want an emergency situation like that to be the first time that you ever try to use your radio. If you don't have a call sign, you won't be able to practice, learn your gear, or get familiar with ham radio as an operator, which means you're definitely going to want to get your license. The technician class is going to be your entry point. It's 35 multiple choice questions, a $15 fee, and with a couple of weeks of focused study, most people pass it. I have a free step-by-step study course on my website that can help you with this. I'll link to it in the description. The technician license primarily opens up VHF and UHF, your local bands. Those are the frequencies that you'll use for neighborhood and community level emergency communication. For most emergency preparedness scenarios, technician is what you need to get started. If you want to reach across state lines to contact family in another region or to relay information in a widespread disaster, then you're going to want your general class license, which opens up the HF bands that travel around the world. But technician is the right starting point. For emergency preparedness with a technician license, a basic VHF, UHF, handheld radio is your starting point. For preparedness-minded people, the Yaesu FT60R is the one that I'd recommend for this purpose. It's built like a tank, it has excellent audio, and it runs on a battery pack that accepts AA batteries. That last part matters in an emergency. If you can't charge from a wall outlet, you can pull batteries out of a flashlight and you can keep operating. Preppers seem to love the Baofeng UV5R, and it's a viable budget option. If you already own one, it works for this purpose. If you're buying new though, I would spend the extra money on the Yaesu. You're going to want to program the radio before you need it. Specifically, program all of your local repeaters into the memory channels. When you need to communicate in an emergency, you don't want to be searching around for frequencies while you're under pressure. Here's the part most emergency prep content skips over, and it's the most important part. A radio in a drawer with no one on the other end is useless in an emergency situation. Most areas have an amateur radio emergency service group called ARES, which stands for Amateur Radio Emergency Service. These are organized groups of licensed hams who train together, coordinate with local emergency management, and activate during disasters. Your county may have one. Your city almost certainly does. Getting involved with your local ARES group before an emergency happens means that you would have a functioning network and a real role to plug into when it counts. You're not improvising, you're part of a system that's already been tested. Find your local ARES group at arrl.org, attend a meeting, check into their nets. A net is just a scheduled on-air gathering where operators check in with a control station. Participating in nets keeps your skills sharp and builds the relationships that matter when things get serious. In most populated areas, there's a network of VHF and UHF repeaters. These are relay stations that are installed on towers, hilltops, and tall buildings. They take your signal, boost it, and then retransmit it. What this means for you is that your handheld radio, which might have a few miles of direct range, it means that you can then communicate across an entire metro area and probably even further if you connect through a repeater. In emergencies, these repeaters often stay on the air long after the cell phone towers go down. Many of them run on backup generators or battery systems that are specifically designed to be resilient. Find your own local repeaters on repeaterbook.com. Program them in. Don't wait until you need them. Quick pause. If you're watching this and you haven't gotten your license yet and you're trying to figure out whether ham radio is the right fit before you commit to studying, I made a free course for exactly that. It walks you through the hobby honestly, what some of the biggest beginner frustrations are, what the license process involves, and what you actually need to get started. The link is in the description. Okay, let's talk about HF. For those of you who already have a general class license or who are planning to get one, HF access changes your emergency preparedness picture significantly. On HF, you're not dependent on local repeater infrastructure at all. You're transmitting directly to other stations, potentially hundreds or thousands of miles away. In a regional disaster where local infrastructure is down across a wide area, that reach can be invaluable. POTA operators, I cover POTA extensively on this channel. POTA operators often run setups that are specifically designed to be portable and battery powered. The same setup that lets you activate a state park on a Saturday afternoon is also a capable emergency station. A 100-watt HF radio, a simple wire antenna, and a good lithium battery can put your signal across the country when everything else is dark. That's not special equipment, that's standard ham radio gear. Now I can already hear some of the comments I'm probably going to get on this video, so let me share a few thoughts with you. I know your technician license does give you access to a small part of the 10-meter band on HF and also lets you do Morse code, which we call CW, on parts of the other bands, but honestly, most technicians won't have an HF rig, and you need one to be able to use that small part of 10 meters. And if you're going to be buying an expensive HF rig, why would you only want to use it on a small part of one band? It makes a lot more sense to me to just get general so that you can use them all. Another thing, your results on 10 meters really depends on the solar cycle. So there are going to be times when it won't work the best. Some HF bands work better in different cycles, and some work better during the day, some work better at night. With general, you can use whichever one is working for you whenever you need it. Finally, most beginners aren't getting into ham radio so they can do CW, especially if they're into emergency preparedness. If you want to talk on HF, don't try to deal with the limitations of the technician license. Just get your general class. Okay, that's the end of my rant. Here's the practical starting point. 3 steps. First, get your technician license. 2 to 4 weeks of study, a $15 exam fee. Once you have it, you have legal authority to transmit. Second, get a basic VHF, UHF handheld that runs on replaceable batteries. Program your local repeaters into it before you need them. Third, find your local ARES group and make contact. Show up to a meeting, check into their nets, build a connection before an emergency gives you a reason to need it. That's your foundation. HF capabilities, portable antennas, backup power systems. That stuff can be added as you grow in the hobby. Ham radio is not going to replace your emergency food supply or your water storage. But for communication, for the ability to reach people and get information when the normal systems fail, It's one of the most capable tools available to anybody who's willing to pass a test. If you found this useful, subscribe. There's more where this came from. And if you're new to ham radio and trying to figure out where to start, the free course at hamradiolaunchpad.com is the right place. The link is in the description.